So today, Grant Vermeer, 2017 grad of the United States Naval Academy, basketballer type, now in the real estate industry in San Diego. And there's no better place to be than that sunny California, sunny and 75. There's going to be a lot of authenticity in this one. So if you're looking for a real estate agent, this is the guy, very authentic, and it comes up in the memory section. Founder and president of the Academy Insider, a nonprofit supporting USNA community, also a college basketball referee.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool. I don't see how you have the time to do all this. So that'll be a portion of our conversation.
sure.
Raised in Mountain View, California. I think your values may have been shaped by a place called Bellarmine.
Yeah,
College
Bellarmine.
Prep?
Bellarmine. Yeah,
Bellarmine.
Bellarmine College Prep. Yeah, Jesuit Catholic High School up in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Nice. And obviously the Academy shaped some of that as well. Post-graduation, served as a Cryptologic Warfare Officer on 4 different submarines, right? That'll be another fun one
Correct.
to get into because I want to know more about that. I don't know a whole lot about it. When I see
Sure.
Cryptologic, I'm thinking, crypto money, super secret squirrel stuff. So we'll get into that.
Sure.
But so how's Grant doing today?
Incredible. Kind of like you mentioned about sunny California and San Diego this morning. Got up, went for a walk, had my coffee. It was 67 and sunny. It was 7:30 a.m. in Coronado, so certainly can't complain. I'm doing well.
You're making me jealous right now. I used to live in Carlsbad, lived there for a year.
Yep.
Did some time in Oceanside, and then deployed for a year to Afghanistan. And as I was coming back, I was texting my wife. I was like, "Hey, find a place on the beach." And she found this, I think it was maybe 1,000 square foot apartment. It was on the 101 there in Carlsbad, and probably the best year of my life from like getting up in the morning, exercise, and like all the outdoor, like just go outside and do something, type of activities.
Yep.
So
you had that deployment money. You come back, you said, get a place on the beach. Get a place on the beach.
I mean, it was like 1,000 square foot, or I'm probably missing that number, but it was $2,000 a month. Sure. And back in that day, that was a lot, but the experience was worth it. So
absolutely.
All right. So something that I do special on the price of admission is I do some memories from folks in your inner circle. And I got memories from a few folks. One, Brian Rudd, 2015 grad from the Academy. Another one, Jeremiah Harding, 17 grad. And then your sponsor mom, Jen Pilcher. Is that how you pronounce it? Pilcher. Yep. Perfect. So we're going to hit that right now. And for the audience, like I always do this reach back of memories because it's important. Not just because of where, people were back then. It's more about where they are today and those foundational type of values that they're still doing. So here's what Brian Rudd had to say about this guy, Grant. Grant is one of the most authentic people I have ever met. I feel like a lot of content creation, influencer type roles don't fully feel authentic. But seeing some of the behind the scenes of the Academy Insider, what Grant's, as I was Grant's roommate, he was fully dedicated to helping candidates, midshipmen's families, friends, learn more about the Academy and improve everyone's experience at a place that can be very challenging. He puts a ton of work into it. It's not just driven by likes or money, but by genuine desire to help people. And there's another segue there with people that we're going to hit later. So in 2020, Grant had pretty much finished, checking out of his first command. He literally had a cribbage board with coins from all his deployments over the years. Oh, it's up there, right there.
It's right.
Something happened where the DSO, and what's a DSO?
Yeah, DSO just means direct support officer. So you talk about being a cryptologic officer on a submarine. That's our billet name. We're the DSO, the direct support officer.
Got it. Cool. Who's on deployment needed to be swapped out, and Grant was the only person available. He had deployed a lot and was looking forward to his next command. Also, this was during the peak of COVID times, and teams that were deploying had to go through the whole ROM process. What's a ROM process?
Restriction of movement, I think it's basically quarantine, right? Like before you traveled anywhere, you had to do 14 days isolated, and then after you landed somewhere, you had to do 14 days isolated. So yeah, this story was funny because I was ready. I had completed my 3 deployments. I deployed on the Newport News, the Providence, and the Albany, and I was getting ready to rotate to my shore tour, and I was so excited. 3 submarine deployments in like 2 years, right? I was burned out, and the guy was just like he needed to swap. And, I was the only one available. So I got upheld and got sent out on one more deployment, like we're saying, with COVID time. So that included all of the quarantine on the front end, quarantine on the back end. It was a lot, but it ended up being probably the coolest deployment I did. So it worked out.
Nice. Burnout. All right. That's another a theme that we'll get into, probably where the people aspect comes in. Behind closed doors, Grant was obviously pretty bummed to have to go on another deployment. He was looking forward to his next tour, but he made sure that he was fully prepared and externally showed a positive attitude and presence so he could positively impact his team's morale and do the mission. I was really impressed by his dedication. It would have been really easy to fall into that cynicism, but he always put his sailors in the mission first. So one more from him. Grant's one of the biggest reality TV fans I've ever met. I had never really watched reality TV, but his enthusiasm got me super invested in Big Brother.
Yeah, man. Great show.
Man, my wife and kids are all over that as well. I just never got into that. I think one of my favorite traditions when we lived together was watching Big Brother and ordering royal kebab afterward.
Yeah. Some gas station Indian food and Big Brother on Wednesday nights, man. There's nothing like it. A little trashy TV to wind down the day and some gas station Indian food.
He mentioned that for anybody in the Annapolis or Fort Meade area, don't sleep on royal kebab or let the.
It's great.
Yeah. So, all right, next one. Jeremiah Harding, 2017. So same class. He said, Grant is the most caring, people-focused individuals I've met since attending the academy. It is evident in all his interactions and how he conducts his daily life that his genuine interest in people's lives and the innate ability to connect, which is a superpower, by the way, with just about anyone. This makes him an incredible friend and will drop whatever he's doing just with a phone call to be there. At the same time, he goes out of his way to help whoever he meets. He loves doing reality and in private conversations. You can see his face light up as he talks about his desire to help clients with this massive, only a few times in life, purchase and decision. So he said with the Academy Insider, he is truly motivated in providing a resource for MIDs, families, friends, and prospective students that he and his family didn't have when he was going through those trials and tribulations. It's funny how that works. It's like, I wish I would have known this. Mm-hmm. And it sounds like kind of that's what you're doing. So
it's the origin. It's the origin of it. And I'm sure we'll talk about it more later, but yeah.
Yeah. He said, when we walk around campus or tailgate a Navy football game, he will constantly stop and, talk to folks that recognize him from the Academy Insider. Each interaction is a natural thing and it's earnest. He'll come away from each conversation, for years. Very down to earth, just clicks with everybody he meets. Couple more. Throughout the adversity of school and Navy, he's been exceptionally even keeled, and has a mantra: only things you can control in life are your attitude and your effort. And that's a sham wow for me, man. Yeah, that's a good mantra. Let's see. We're talking about, okay, so now we get into basketball. So your basketball career at Navy. He started off as a freshman, in his freshman season, strong, great amount of playing time. But after some time on the bench, fighting an extended illness, it seemed like he wasn't going to be leaving the bench. Unfortunately, this would continue through the rest of his collegiate career, where he didn't ever, get that playing time that he was on track to do early as a freshman. Despite not getting lots of meaningful minutes, he gave everything he could do for his team and his teammates. And
man, that was sorry to interject. Like that one to me is it's some like the biggest life lesson I learned, because kind of, again, I played a lot my freshman year, right? And that was fun to come in as a freshman and play high level Division I basketball. My sophomore year, I started our first 9 games, right? First game of the year is against Michigan State at home in the Veterans Classic, right? I'm lined up against Denzel Valentine, Travis Trice, like all these dudes in the NBA, right? And so it was a blast. Over winter break, I get the flu, like serious flu. I'm out for 3 weeks. And a couple of the new freshmen who had just showed up, or like that year, got some opportunities and they killed it. Right. And still some of my best friends to this day, Sean Anderson, Bryce Doolin, guys who were just better basketball players than me, got their opportunity and showed it. Right. Got their opportunity and showed it. And that's just the reality of the world. And so for me, that was tough going into my junior and senior year, knowing like, hey, I played a ton my first 2 years. And then now I'm a bench warmer, right? Like I'm low on the list. And so that idea of, again, this is where the only thing you control is your attitude and your effort really came about. Right. Because for me, it was like, I can either pout about the fact that I'm not playing and just be a detriment to the team, or I can embrace this new role, even though it's not the role I want, it's the role I have. Right. I can either embrace this role and make a positive contribution to the team, bring a ton of energy, be a great practice player, be someone who's doing positive things in Bancroft Hall to kind of manage the relationships between basketball players and everyone in the brigade. Right. Like those are the things that I was trying to focus on to try and, again, make a positive impact, because there were 2 choices in that spot. You either pout or you find a way to make a positive impact. Right. And so that was kind of a big factor for me on like how to, again, adjust, taking a new role I didn't like and making it a positive thing.
It's funny though, because you're going to take a few roles within your life that is the exact same scenario. So if you can learn that early and set up for success. So let's see. If he wasn't starting or getting minutes off the bench, you could see him motivated with that energy, hype type of guy on the sideline. When he spoke of his sailors, there was a legitimate concern for them and their well-being. That's hard to find from officers with very demanding jobs. I don't think dropping your pack was in his blood. So one more out of him is like, I cannot actually describe to you the excitement this man has when he gets good chicken wings. Whenever we were back in Annapolis, you could find him at Acme Bar and Grill.
Acme, bro, you got to go to Acme. I'm telling you, Acme has the best wings in Annapolis. Acme before 9 p.m. is the best place in Annapolis. After 9 p.m., questionable spot. But hey, like you got to do what you got to do. But those chicken wings, the best in Annapolis. I stand by that.
Here's a funny Navy football tie-ins. Acme used to be the Navy football place until they all got kicked out of it, and Dock Street became the place. But the wings are definitely, I think you're right there. He said, I'm struggling to just pick these wings up without getting second-degree burns, and you're inhaling them. He'll finish wing number 7. You'll already be done. So the wings are definitely a Grant thing, looks like. All right. Last memory here from Jim Pilcher, your sponsor mom and extremely close friend and mentor. She said, "Here's a fun story, short story about Grant's strong family values. Grant is family focused. Um, he fits so easily in our family, having siblings himself. He understands what it's like to be a big mid brother. A fun memory is at a Thanksgiving holiday, while he was a mid and basketball player, they could not go home for the holiday during that time. Therefore, we invited his family up to spend, Thanksgiving Day at our home, and they introduced us to left, right, center game, um,
Yeah.
which is a roll of dice game. Eventually, someone wins all the money in the pot. So I'm a gambler. I like that stuff.
Yeah.
Uh,
Very good. Yeah, very good.
unfortunately, uh, it gets loud and exciting. I just remember everybody always laughing. And we
Mhm.
still play that game every Thanksgiving thanks to Grant and his family. We consider him and his family, our family, have made many great memories together, even meeting up in different parts of the world to reconnect. So, yeah, man, memory section
Special.
done. We'll close that
No, I
sucker
love it.
out. And
Yeah. Well,
now
as we're
turn it
as we're
over to you.
transitioning, yeah, I just got to give a special like thank you to the Pilcher family. Again, we talk about. We'll get into it. Like plebe year and even youngster year for me at the academy, I was not convinced. I was not convinced that this was the right place for me. And there were multiple times where, as I mentioned, I am a very family focused person, and like I love family, I love people, and so to have that family away from home, to have that family environment, to have two younger kids where I could be an older brother, to have two parents, really, like honestly, who love me and take care of me and they were to support me. Like I'm not sitting here today without the Pilcher family, right? Not even sort of. And so I just
Yeah.
all three of those people that you mentioned, Brian, Jeremiah, and Jen, like obviously it was really cool to hear those memories. Those made me laugh. But I love them to death, right? Like I love them to death. I do anything for all three of those people. So I appreciate you doing that. That was very cool.
Yeah. And you're on your way. You just got engaged, right?
Yeah, yeah, just got
So,
engaged to another Naval Academy grad, actually, Dominique Adams, class of 19. She's a Romeo pilot, so helicopter pilot out in San Diego, and it's been amazing. But we're about to hit the reality of like the Navy world, right? So she's supposed to deploy next year, so we're just gearing up for that and making my transition. I thought I was escaping from the Navy life by getting out, but now I'm just back in it as a spouse this time, though. So making the transition to being a military spouse.
perfect. Well, dude, tell us your story and go as far back as you want to.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. So I grew up in Northern California, San Francisco Bay Area, a city called Mountain View. My dad was the police chief in the city of Mountain View for a long time. And so there was always this like general desire to, again, serve the community. But being from Mountain View, there's not a lot of military presence whatsoever. There used to be an old P3 base, Moffett Field, but by the time I was born, that was no longer a Navy installation. So again, not a lot of Navy related influence in the Bay Area. So I didn't even know about the Naval Academy. I didn't know what it was until I started getting recruited to play basketball there. And as a result, again, I was kind of that guy on the D3, D1 border. Again, I'm a 6'2" white guy, right? It's not like North Carolina and Duke were coming to recruit me. So I had to be a little proactive in my recruitment process. And I mean, it was super fun. So I was on that D3, D1 border, had a great summer going into my senior year in high school, got an offer from Sacramento State and Navy. And so I went on my recruiting visit to Navy, and it was just incredible, right? It was beautiful, and for any recruited athlete at the Naval Academy, like they roll out the red carpet and they make Annapolis look so awesome, right? You're like,
Oh
oh my,
yeah.
this is beautiful. This place is great. They have you do your weekend with a firstie, so you're sitting there. They're playing video games in their room. They're like, yeah, it's not that
Right
bad.
after they
It's not
bought
that bad.
their
You'll be
brand
you'll be
new
all right.
car with the,
Yeah.
career starter
With the
loan.
load, yeah, all of it. Yeah, you're going around town. This is not bad. So anyway, like in all seriousness, I get to this point where I'm like, free school, elite education, and the opportunity to play Division I basketball. Right, like this is a no brainer decision for me. And so, I choose the Naval Academy, and as a result, like I knew I was going to a military school. I didn't really comprehend what that was going to mean and what that was going to entail. And so showing up to plebe summer for me was a smack in the face. It was a smack in the face. And like there were times I even have a letter that I wrote home to my mom and dad. Well, actually, this one was just to mom. I normally address letters home during plebe summer to like mom and dad or like the Vermeer family. This one was just to mom. On the Naval Academy letterhead, nice paper, everything, just mom in all caps. It said, "I hate this place. Please come save me. I love you, Grant."
How'd she
Just like
react
that.
to that?
Oh, she was about ready to
She
get
was
on a
like,
flight and drag me out of that place. She
okay,
was not happy. She
gotcha.
again, her favorite little phrase is a mom, but a parent in general can only be as happy as their unhappiest child. And so she knew I was struggling and miserable, and so she was not doing well. She was not doing well.
Gotcha.
It took my dad a lot of. I'm sure that was a strenuous time for my dad too, trying to
Yeah, because
take
he's
care of
probably like
her and
trying
know
to
that I
throw
was
that in
struggling.
the trash. He's like,
Throw
keep
that in the
going.
trash. Exactly. But through my time at the academy, it was the investment of people. It was the investment of mentors who really helped me realize all of the benefits of the Naval Academy education and all the life experience that I was getting. And again, it was one of those things that it was a conversation with a guy on the team, class of 15 guy. His name was Kevin Alter, called him Pookie. And Pookie was a guy, much like me, who unfortunately didn't get a ton of playing time at the academy. And so as I was shifting from being a guy who got a lot of minutes to a guy who got no minutes, he was the one who had those conversations with me. He was the one who helped me realize, like everything that I was saying earlier in the episode, like again, I have two choices. I can either pout or I can go ahead and, have a positive attitude and continue to work extremely hard to excel in my new role, even though I don't like my role, right? That's a choice that I have.
Yep.
And so that made me, again, realize everything, because that to me, although it was a basketball discussion, I realized that was a life discussion, right? Like I was like, I can either
Yep.
pout about the fact that the Naval Academy is hard, or I can embrace it, pour into it, find mentors, go talk to people, and take advantage of this opportunity that I have at the Naval Academy, where there are so many incredible Navy and Marine Corps leaders who are there to teach, coach, and mentor you, from company officers, battalion officers, the senior enlisted leaders, the staff,
Yeah.
right,
It's a
teachers,
great
etc.
network to be a part of for sure.
It's
Because you'll always
unbelievable.
have that phone number, no matter what it
Always,
is. That's a big
right?
thing
No
for
matter
me is like, all right, so I'm thinking about this thing. Who's the best person I know that knows the most about this subject,
yep.
whatever it is?
Right, 100%. And so I have people invest into my life and my development, and it just made me so grateful, because I don't know if you take anything away from those memories, which is so special, is that like I take relationships, I take people very seriously, right? And so like when I have
Yeah.
people invest in me and show me love, right? Sometimes that's tough love, sometimes that's accountability, right? Sometimes that's Pookie telling me, "Hey, you're pouting right now. You're being a loser. You're being a quitter. Like you can pout about this or you cannot," right? And so like
Yeah.
having that influence from people made me realize what a special place the academy was. Because how many places are you going to go where people are going to tell you the truth, where people are going to hold
Yeah.
you to a higher standard, where people aren't going to coddle you and be like, "Hey, no, it's okay. Like, you're going to be okay." Like, no, they're like, "All right, yeah, that's your situation. What are you going to do about it?" Right? Like,
Yeah.
again, you're a human being, you're an adult, you have these choices. You can either choose to be a winner, you can choose to be a loser, right? And I don't mean it to like be extremely harsh, but it just comes down to a fact. Again, you control your attitude, you control your effort. Your situation might not be what you want it to be, the circumstances surrounding it might not be ideal, but again, you control your attitude, you control your effort. And so for me, that was just a life-changing moment in my perspective and opinion towards everything. And so that was kind of what changed my path at the academy and going through. And it was, we talk about mentors, it was Major Cruisinger, who was the basketball O rep, and he was on the commandant staff, who encouraged me to go out for a plebe summer leadership billet going into my first year. And I'd never really considered it, but I was like, "Oh, okay, like if you say so," right? We had built a really great relationship. I was like, "If you say so, I'll do it." And I ended up getting selected to be the regimental commander of plebe summer. And that was an incredible opportunity for me, because I had the opportunity to make an impact more or less on every single plebe that came in the class of 2020, right? And not everyone needed an impact from me. Like there are people who were doing well, who enjoyed it, or like this was their dream, and they were going through, and obviously it still sucks, but they were like happy to be there, right? Like they were happy for the suck, they were embracing the suck. But not everyone arrives at that point, right? Not everyone arrives at that point. And so for me, I got to have a great opportunity to like find the plebes who were struggling and go share my story.
The ones that were writing down that note to your mom.
The ones who were writing that, the ones who were going through the same experience I had, right? And you know, and so I was able to have that conversation with them. And like this is kind of a second one of my mantras, but I was able to kind of talk to them. I was like, hey, right now, because again, when we were talking about what was making me want to leave, it was everything emotional. I was homesick, I was unhappy, I was uncomfortable. Like it was all emotion based. There was no logic, there was no reason to it, right? I was simply just in an uncomfortable spot and unhappy, and I wanted to escape it, right? And so I had the opportunity to go talk to these kids and be like, never make a permanent decision based on temporary emotions, right? Like if I would have made that decision as a plebe, I would have never had these life experiences. And now sitting here 7 years removed from the academy, I look at the perspective I have and the experiences I have. And that would have, again, going to the Naval Academy was the best decision I ever made in my life. And I almost threw it away on multiple occasions because of making emotional decisions, right? And so to have gotten that opportunity then to be able to share my story to the class of 2020 plebes, especially the people who needed it, right? It's a fun story. There's a girl who ran in the Paris Olympics this year representing Guam. She's a class of 2020 United States Naval Academy graduate, and she was a plebe while I was the Reg Commander, and she hated it, just like me, right? She hated it, and I got to have that conversation with her, and just provide that perspective, and just calm the storm to make it one more day. Again, because when you just make it one more day and you get away from that peak of your emotional feeling in the moment, again, what you've really done is you've just gotten one more repetition at overcoming adversity, right? You've gotten one more repetition of, you know, not making a permanent decision based off emotion and being able to make it to the next day and take it with a little bit more of a rational and logical approach. And so for me, having that impact during plebe summer, I was like, all right, well, how do I continue to make this impact? Because I think it's important. And there are a lot of incredible Navy and Marine Corps leaders who were probably on the verge of leaving if it wasn't for the investment and impact of maybe one person. And to me, again, this is just something that's so special, as I always encourage people, is like, never underestimate the impact you can make with really simple actions, right? For me, almost leaving was just like simple words and simple conversations from my dad, right? It was a conversation from my company officer just telling me, hey, because my thing when I was there is I was like, I shouldn't be here. I don't belong here. I don't want to do it. I have all these people out here telling me I'm here for the wrong reasons and that it needs to be like what I love. And he's like, Grant, this is Lieutenant Burke.
Yeah, he ain't gonna love a little bit of this.
Yeah, he was like, dude, hey, because then it became like training timeout, right? Training timeout. Like, let's just talk as humans, right? He was like, look, the military doesn't have to be who you are. It might just be what you do, right? It might just be what you do. And so as long as you embrace these things and find your purpose and continue to do it, like, it'll be okay, but you don't need to feel the exact same way as the other person. Of, you know, every individual at the brigade, in the brigade of midshipmen, has their own individual story, right? And they have their own individual experience. You just need to own your experience, be proud of your experience, and then capitalize on your experience, right? And so it was all of these stories, all of these investments of people into my life, which is simple actions, right? Just being kind, actually caring, being inquisitive, that got me to the point of where I was at, right? And so at that point, you know, I'm sitting with my dad. It's the spring break of my first year, and we're laughing because he was like, I didn't think you were going to be sitting here today. Like, I didn't think you were going to make it. And I was like, all right, well, that's fair. And he was just asking, he's like, what do you regret most of your time at the academy? Right. And for me, I was like, I felt like I did a really bad job of communicating to my family what I was going through and what my experience was like at the Naval Academy. And it put them in a really bad spot of how to support me. because they didn't know what was going on in my life. They didn't understand what was going on in my life, and they didn't know actually how to treat me and what I needed, right? Because they didn't understand the experience at all. And so as a result, we were having that conversation, and he challenged me. He's like, all right, well, how are you going to make that better for the next midshipman? How are you going to make that better for the next wave? And that's the origin of Academy Insider, because I was like, all right, well, I'd love to take the experience that I have, be able to share my story and the insight I gained as the Reg Commander of Plebe Summer, and all the insight into kind of Plebe Summer at large and the Naval Academy at large, and help be that resource for parents, just to provide them a little bit of context, to be able to help explain situations, to be able to calm their nerves and give them an insight of how they can best support their son or daughters are going through the academy. And part of that too was like, how can I provide this insight and guidance and share my story with also incoming plebes, again, to make them have that a little bit sense of preparedness of showing up to the academy. So that way they're not just holding on, but they're able to really pour in and maximize their experience at the Naval Academy. And so that was the origin of Academy Insider. I was like, how do I give back? How do I make an impact on the next wave of midshipmen and make the experience a little bit better for them, right? Making it better doesn't make it easier, but if you can help provide perspective, so that way they're really learning the lessons they should be learning and receiving the support they should be receiving from their families, then that's just an overall positive thing. And so, yeah, so that's how it came about. And it originally started as just kind of a blog. I was doing some Facebook Live videos answering questions about Plebe Summer for parents whose kids were going through the academy. And it's developed into what it is now, right? It's a full community. In my opinion, like what I want Academy Insider to be is just a community of Naval Academy families, Naval Academy graduates, and midshipmen, with the overall goal and purpose of serving and supporting midshipmen, future midshipmen, and their families by providing a radically transparent but really positive view of the Naval Academy experience. And so, again, we have the Academy Insider podcast, we have the website, we have the blog, Instagram, Facebook, everything. And, I'm just doing my best, again, to provide a real insight into what life at the Academy is really like, but still at the same time, highlighting all of the amazing benefits of a service academy education and making sure people know that this is truly the best decision they'll ever make in their life, especially if they pour into it and take advantage of it.
Got it. Good stuff, man. Talking about the, emotional decision. We kind of hit on that with like, hey, I want to leave and I'm glad I stayed. But was there another teacher for you specifically on that lesson that may have not just been academy related?
Yeah. So maybe not academy related, but basketball related, right? Again, there was a point at the end of my sophomore year where I just gone again from being a starter to not playing. Like started first 9 games preseason, I'm a starter. The entire conference season and postseason, I didn't touch the floor. Right, I didn't touch the floor, and so for me, that made me really emotional. I was like, "Yo, this is horrible." Right, like I hate this. Right, and
playmaker, you want to make plays.
You want to make plays. You want to play. Who doesn't want to play? I'm a competitive dude, right? Like I'm a competitive dude. I loved basketball. I loved being a high level basketball player. So sitting on the bench was infuriating, right? Like I hated every bit of it. And so, for me, that made me extremely emotional, right? And so, for me, again, it was this decision point of, do I make an emotional decision and either quit basketball or transfer to another school where I can go and play somewhere else maybe, or I can take a step back and actually take an approach of the pros and cons of making a decision like that, right? Yeah. And so for me, again, it was mentors. It was Major Cruisinger. It was Kevin Alter. It was my dad, right? It was all these people talking about, all right, well, take a look at this, right? Like, what are you gaining by leaving? What are you losing by leaving? What are you gaining by staying? What are you losing by leaving? And it was very clear to see in having these conversations with my dad is that by staying, I was going to be gaining the network of people who are going to help me develop as a young man and as a leader and give me great opportunities in life, right? The conversation constantly with my dad was never let basketball use you you need to use basketball to get where you want to get in life, right? Like
Nice.
you have
It's a good piece of
dedicated a
advice.
lot of time to do it, right? And so for me, it was like, all right, if I leave to go play basketball somewhere else, well, what happens? I play 2 years of college ball and then I'm done. Like, what am I going to go play again? I needed to be realistic with myself. I'm not going to the NBA. I could potentially go play in Europe in some C league and make 40 grand a year playing basketball, or I can just stay at the Naval Academy, surround myself in an environment where you are surrounded by such high performing, highly motivated, really smart, really emotionally intelligent individuals that are going to help you develop and get where you want to get in life, right? And so for me, it was at this point where I was like, all right, I really started to get it and understand it, and having those conversations and not making an emotional decision, but having a really well thought out decision making process where I realized that by staying at the academy, I was going to be surrounded by people who, through their actions, had demonstrated to me that what this idea of having service as a virtue, having service at the core of who you are really meant, right? There were people who went out of their way to help me, to love me, to care for me, and to help me develop, right? And I knew that I wanted to be a part of that. I wanted to continue to stay a part of that network and to continue to learn in that environment. And so for me, that was one of those things where I learned, again, another great example for me of not making that permanent decision based on a really emotional situation, but rather just taking a step back, analyzing it, and realizing that by staying at the Naval Academy, I was continuing along the best decision I ever made in my life, right? To go to the academy. And, it was one of those things. Now that I'm engaged to a Naval Academy grad too, that's only doubling down on the fact that it's the best decision I ever made, because she's the greatest thing that's ever happened to me, and that wouldn't have happened without staying. So I stand by that fact. I stand by that fact.
Awesome. Good stuff. I actually listened to, I'm going to say one of your episodes. I went to Academy Insider and I found one. I was like, oh, I know that guy. Jervy Aloda, that episode.
Yeah.
That dude.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I actually had him on as well. Best man at my wedding, Matt Neshek. He was a D lineman when I was a backer, same class, good history there.
Mm-hmm.
But he said, hey, you need to get this guy on. He had just joined the ship that Jervy took over, and he kind of flipped house with morale and people and kind of the things you're talking about. So how was that episode for you with the Jerv on there? Because it wasn't just that. I mean, son of a senior chief, and a banger of a baller in the secondary for Navy back when they made a big stand on some stuff.
Yeah.
So
big time football player, son of a Navy chief and parent of a midshipman at the Naval Academy, right? And so like from everything, just like really full circle for everything Academy Insider. But no, it was incredible. And the reason I really wanted to have him on, we talk about like change in morale and everything, is he is a person who loves people. He is a person who understands that people are the priority, right? And for me, this is something that I really resonated with, because we had mentioned earlier, I went to a Jesuit Catholic high school where the motto, like the ethos of the Jesuit order, is being a man for others, right? Someone who loves, cares, is attentive, and goes out of their way to serve others. And Jervy Aloda
also prioritizes education as a means to develop the whole person. Right? Committed 100%. To the lifelong learning. Don't get complacent. Keep on moving. Right?
Yes, all of it. Right. And you're so spot on with all of that. And so that's why I wanted to have him on, because he's the, again, epitome of loving your people and taking care of your people. He was very clear in the episode when he speaks on it, and it's something that I hold so true. And it was what I tried to do as an officer in the Navy as well is, hey, if you put your priority in the people, in taking care of your people and helping them advance and helping them promote and helping them win in whatever they want to do, right? Whether that is advance in the Navy or whether it's they want to transition out. So you're helping them with college applications. You're helping them with the job search. You're helping them whatever. If you're doing everything that you can do to help your people win.
List for all the other nuances just went to this. Right?
That's right. It's that simple. Like if you take care of people, you love people, you serve people, the mission is going to get done. they're going to do it if they know that you genuinely care about them and you are generally there to help them, the mission will get complete, right? And so I think that was the biggest takeaway and something I love from having Jervy on there, because again, there's a lot of times we can get caught up in the mission and getting the things done. But if you change that priority, and again, you put your people first and you love your people and you serve your people and you embrace this idea of being a man for others and being of service and being a lifelong educator and learner, again, you're going to put yourself in a great situation, right? And so having him on was incredible from that. And he's just a person that I want to emulate, right? Like I invited him on because he's a person I see, I observe, and I'm like, I would like to be like him. He's a person who embodies what I hold dear, but he does it better than I do, right? And so like I want to be like him. And so it was incredible to have him on from that perspective.
Back when I got him on, it was kind of early when I started doing this whole thing. I'd like to probably try and get him on again just to like revisit some of that stuff as you know, as my growth has changed a little bit. But yeah, great dude. Great leader for sure. And real estate industry. All right. We got to talk about this today because the rate cuts thing just became a thing. So that's what you do now, right?
Yeah.
What are you seeing as a real estate agent that everybody needs to know right now with possible rate cuts and like what's the jargon? What's the news?
Yeah, what's the news? So here's what I think, and this is a big shout out to Lauren Dempsey. She's another Naval Academy graduate. She's an incredible realtor out in the Denver area. She always doubles down on the fact that real estate is hyper localized. And so, what's really interesting is that I am partnered with my mom, and we run a residential real estate team licensed in Texas and California. So we service the Austin market, and then we service the San Francisco Bay Area and Monterey market. Yeah, love it. Oh, really? What part?
Liberty Hill.
Austin proper? Liberty Hill? No kidding. Yeah. We live right off of 29 in Georgetown. Yeah, right by
Highway 29. Take 200 north.
Reagan, baby.
10 minutes. And, yeah.
That's right. So my mom lives in Georgetown. And we service the Austin area and then San Francisco Bay Area / Monterey. Out by the Naval Postgraduate School. And then obviously I'm physically in San Diego. So trying to, again, work in that area as well, just for the convenience of it all. And all three markets are completely different. Yeah. In Austin, there was a surge of it's nuts.
Sorry, when I grew up, there was 2 stoplights.
Yes.
One fast food joint popped up when I was a senior in high school. When I drive through that, area now, it's totally different. The growth there is crazy. And the dollars behind the house, like my mom bought our house when I was a kid. I think they bought it like $50,000. And she moved out here closer to us and sold it for $500,000 from a guy out of California that hadn't even seen the place. So it's nuts. The whole real estate thing in Central Texas is booming.
It's booming, right? And so, but it's actually really interesting because it was booming, right? It was booming.
Rates.
Because when everything with rates and everything, and again, this idea of moving back to the office, right? A lot of people were moving to Texas because they were able to work remotely and they wanted to go to a no income tax state, but they wanted to be around a fun city that like had a market in case things returned. But the amount of new construction that happened was insane because they projected that they were still going to continue the rate of people coming to Austin at such a high amount that now the inventory in Austin is so high that there's not enough demand to keep up with the supply that's increased. And so prices have gone way down. Like there's been a correction of over 20% in Austin, and especially South Austin. North Austin, the Georgetown, Liberty Hill area has generally stayed because Austin has a massive campus in Cedar Park that they're expanding. And so there's a ton more Apple employees coming. Samsung's building $1 billion microchip facility just over in Taylor, Texas, kind of northeast suburbs of Austin, right? And then you still have a big Dell facility in North Austin as well. So like there are major employers in the North Austin area that have kept property values pretty high because the demand's there. but a lot of the stuff in South Austin has been tough, right? It's been tough. And so again, it's a really interesting perspective from that case. Whereas in Monterey prices just kept going up. Like Monterey is such a little paradise where the inventory is fixed. There's not a lot of new construction going on. It's been a developed area. It's generally a smaller area, and it's a retirement community, and it's a literal paradise that prices have generally stayed the same and just continued to appreciate at a very normal rate over the course of, the past 10, even 20 years. And especially since COVID, through all of the stuff and the craziness the past 5 years, remained relatively consistent and just appreciated at a normal rate. And then San Diego has just boomed out of the world, right? It's crazy. Oh, sorry, go.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I don't have a lot of regrets. One I do have is when I took a road trip home from California back to Texas, Oklahoma area, was that I didn't go north and see what Northern California was all about. Because right now my perspective on Northern California is takes a lot of money, lots of high taxes, and big tech.
Yep.
Nothing else. So
yeah. I mean, you're 2 out of 3 there. What? Okay.
2 out of 3.
It's a high price point. It's a high price point, and taxes are really high, straight up. Like there's no ignoring that or avoiding that fact. There is big tech, but when we're talking about Monterey, so this is again kind of clumping as someone. So what's funny as I tell this story is like my fiance. It's so new. I still mess it up. My fiance is she was born in Orange County, which to me as a Northern California person, that's LA. Like,
yeah,
what are you talking about?
To me, that's not LA. Northern California. To me, is like San Francisco area.
Yeah, sorry. Slightly different here. My point is saying, like, to her, Orange County and LA are 2 different things. To me, it's the same thing, right? So as you're talking about Northern California and just saying big tech, like, yeah, from someone who's not from Northern California, I see what you're saying. But like Monterey County and then the Santa Clara County, which is kind of the hub of the Silicon Valley, very different, like very, very different. And so in the Silicon Valley, yes, you have a ton of big tech, right? Apple main headquarters, Google main headquarters, NVIDIA headquarters, right? Like, and that's all in these 3 cities, Mountain View, Cupertino, and Santa Clara, which are all like clumped together. They're bordering cities, right? Like you have massive big tech everywhere. And so,
and you started talking about Austin area, like data center type stuff. Like they're going to move.
Right.
That's my take on it. They're going to move there. They're going to move to Florida. They're going to move somewhere where they don't have to pay so many taxes because it's about to grow real big. That's just my take on it. So
yeah, no, it's an interesting perspective. I'm kind of bullish on the Silicon Valley and like them maintaining their headquarters. I think they're going to expand to other places. But that's their base, right? Like that's their base. And again, you've seen people, like there have been shifts, right? Like Tesla kind of made a big shift out to the Austin area as well. But I think your main established players, your NVIDIAs, your Apples, your Googles, again, they've been there for 20 plus years. And I don't think there's going to be a shift, but obviously that's just opinion. So, but yeah, so, I mean, it's crazy. And then the Monterey area is different, but again, this is a long way to say it's hyper local. And my general advice overarching is that if buying a home is the right decision for you, then it's the right time. And if it's just not the right time for your family, then don't jump into it. Because again, I do think over time, again, you'll have a lot of adages, a lot of verbiage, people telling you, there'll be a lot of people telling you it's always the right time to buy right now, which hypothetically, sure, I understand from a perspective, because like, again, if rates go up, you got the lowest rate today. And if rates go down, you can always refinance and assume that new rate. So from a certain perspective, yes, I get it. It depends on your situation, right? It depends on your situation if buying a home's the right decision for you. Are you ready to undertake all of the hardship and burden of home ownership? Are you ready to pay all the additional things? Are you ready to handle when a pipe bursts or there's a leak or there needs to be major fixes to your home? Are you prepared for that? Emotionally, mentally, and financially, right? And all these different perspectives. And so for me, buying a primary residence, again, I'm not trying to get into real estate investment too much, but buying a primary residence should be based on the decision factor of, am I ready and do I want to buy a home that is my home that I can invest into emotionally and turn it into my home, right? Because in that case, then yes, it's the best decision. And again, if you buy it today, regardless of rates, if they go down, you refinance, you assume the new rate. And if it goes up, well, then you're in the best spot for the next period of time until they go back down, right? And so, so again, long way to say, I believe, and this is the advice I always give people, and this is kind of my buyer consultation, right? Is I don't want someone telling you buying a home is a good idea. And so like, oh, I got to do it. Like, is buying a home the right decision for you at this moment in your life, right? And are you prepared to accept everything that comes with home ownership? Because there are a lot of benefits and there's also a lot of liabilities. There's a lot of things that come with it that you need to be prepared for, right? And so that's the initial conversation I have, and I would encourage people again to consider again, working with someone who's going to have those authentic, genuine conversations with you, not like try and push you to buy, but just have a genuine conversation of like, is this the right decision for me right now? And if the answer is yes, then I'm going to work on your behalf to like get you the best opportunity. But if it's not the right decision for you, then like, dude, like rent, like it's not the end of the world. Like get your life situation where you want to be to like purchase a home and make it feel comfortable in what you want to do. Right. So
for sure.
That's kind of my opinion.
And if you're thinking about buying in Central Texas, Grant's your man.
So I'd offer again, what I really love is I've been really blessed to make a lot of friendships and a lot of connections with people across the country. Like I really pride myself on being an advisor and a connector. So if you're interested in buying and selling real estate in general,
doing the Naval Academy experience is your connection with all over the U.S.
100%, right? 100%. Yeah. And so I would offer, if you're listening to this podcast and at any point you're interested in buying or selling real estate, is shoot me a message. I'd love to like talk about it with you, hear your story, see how I can help, and then get you connected again with a Naval Academy affiliated person somewhere, someone that I know and trust is going to take care of you and then going through the process. So,
all right. So when we talk about your biggest mentor, you mentioned earlier it was Major Cruisinger. Why was he your biggest mentor? How did he impact you? Because that's important. I think every mentor has a duty to really tap in to what makes that spark happen. How'd that work for you with him?
Yeah. This is something that I start with the high level thing about what I think just makes the Naval Academy and Service Academy so special, which we kind of talked about earlier about it's the density of wisdom and leadership experience that exists on campus and on the yard from all the people around. And I think what makes it special is we talked about earlier, the brigade is comprised of 4,400 individuals with their own individual story that are people and have their own emotions, their own way that they connect with people. And at the Naval Academy, there is someone, regardless of your personality type, that is able to connect with you and talk to you and mentor you in your own unique language that you understand, right? Like I think that's what makes it so darn special. You just got to find them. And that requires you
do a little bit of seeking.
That's like,
yeah,
you got to do a little bit of seeking, right? And I talked about it with the Captain Jervy thing, right? Like you need to be observant. You need to find people who you see and you're like, oh no, like that's intriguing to me. Like I like them. I like their leadership style. I would like to emulate them. Like I would connect with them. And then you have to make the extra effort to go establish that relationship and make it happen. Right. And so that's the power of mentorship at the Academy if you can take advantage of it. Right. And so, because again, the Academy, you have pilots who are like pretty low key and chill. You have the SWOs who are just like no nonsense, kind of a little cynical, but like, they're really good at leadership and management. You have the Marines who are just freaking locked on and polished, right? You have kind of like the SEAL EOD guys who are really calm and stoic, low key. Like you have everyone. You have the submariner if you're like a kind of an introverted, really smart person, right? There's so many personality types of people who are there who can connect with you and talk to you in your own language that you understand, right? And so
what did he do for you?
Yeah. So for me, what he did is he was the basketball O-rep, right? And he resonated with me completely because of how just like put together and constantly on he was, right? Like you never saw again because I was dealing with emotional swings, right? And what I saw from him was a true sense of stoicism, right? What I saw from him was a constant composure and like an even keeledness that was like really special, right? And so
from
I
one of
went to him
your
and I talked to
memories,
him,
even killed, right?
right?
Maybe you got some of that
Yeah,
from him.
and again, that's tremendously, tremendously, right? And so, what we had together was we had a lot of conversations. He would give me a book to read, and I would come on road trips, on basketball road trips. We would sit on the bus together and we would talk about it. When we got to the hotel, he would tell me stories about leading Marines in Iraq and Afghanistan, right? Like combat deployments. He's a Purple Heart
Yeah,
guy.
those are the
Like he was
best.
wounded in
Those are the
combat,
best
right?
mentors that really been through some bad shit. That's the good stuff.
Really been through some stuff, and it gives them real perspective in life, that even though this like
Yeah,
silly academy struggle, right, like, oh, I'm not playing in basketball,
yeah,
like
it's peanuts.
compared to that, like it's peanuts. But what they have is perspective to take this and like help you realize and help you navigate your
Yeah,
own personal journey and development, right? And
paint
so
a paint a
he was able
picture
to
that is consumable, absorbable, and then
mm-hmm,
motivational.
100%. And so, what he taught me and what really resonated with me is that he just cared about me. He loved me, right? Like he genuinely was invested in my development and growth as a young man, right? And so for me, it was so special because it's not that he did anything extravagant. He just noticed that I was a little off and offered help, right? And he took the time to read these books with me, to talk to me, to share stories with me, to help provide perspective on what I was going through. He just invested his time and his attention and his care, right? When we talk about being a man for others, he was the epitome of it for me, right? And so it was something that was really special because he didn't do anything extravagant, right? I doubled down on this, which is that you should never underestimate the impact you can make on people's lives with
Yeah,
simple actions, with
yeah,
simple actions. And so that was something that was really special to me. And kind of the biggest thing that he taught me was this idea. And I think it's even better articulated. I don't know if you've never seen a video of Kara Lawson, who's the Duke women's basketball coach. She gives this speech to her girls in the preseason, and she's talking about, hey, if you're waiting for things to get easier, you're wrong, right? Like this training camp, like life's not going to get easier once conditioning is done. It's just going to be harder, right? Like life just keeps getting harder. You just need to be better at handling hard things, right? A lot of us
yeah,
wait in
for
life for
sure.
things to get easier, but we just need to get better at dealing with the adversity of life and overcoming that adversity, right? And that was something that Major Crusinger taught me, right? Is again, each of these things that we're going through, each of these waves, each of these experiences is just a teaching point. It's just a learning lesson. It's just a repetition of overcoming adversity, right? Like what's happening right now is you are becoming someone who handles the hard moments in life better. You are becoming someone who handles emotional swings and comes back to a neutral state and makes a rational decision. Like you're becoming someone who handles hard moments better, right? And so when I was able to take that into perspective, like that was something that just changed the trajectory of my life, right? And so
Yeah,
for him, it was a calmness, it was a stoicism that I related with, and it was a personal investment in kindness to me, that really resonated with me and why he made such a big impact in my life.
nice. I reflect on emotion uh, quite frequently for me
Mhm.
personally, and
Sure.
if there's times when I'm like I got to get rid of it, but that's not the way. I think for me, emotion has always driven everything,
Mhm.
right? Um, and trying to figure out how to use it as a weapon, I think is key. As a weapon, train that weapon, use the weapon.
Yeah.
Because, like, if you think of every time a major impact or a major breakthrough happens, it's usually
Right.
emotionally charged.
Mhm.
Just got to figure out how to train it and control it,
Yeah,
which is the key, which is very hard.
that's right.
But it's all, that's, yeah, that's that story. Anyways,
No, I love it.
uh, good content. So for you, what's your greatest accomplishment? Something you're most proud of within your career, life, today, yesterday? What's that for you?
Yeah. For me, it was my greatest accomplishment, something that really made me proud. actually. It was one of my sailors, a young guy, CTI 3. And he had that conversation with me, right? Again, I had a conversation with every one of my sailors I took out on deployment, right? And I was like, what do you want most? What are you hoping to get out of your Navy experience, right? Are you hoping to advance and make a career out of this? Are you hoping to transition out and go back to school? Like, what do you want, right? What do you want? And he told me early on, he's like, hey, sir, I came here, I wanted to serve, but like for me, I just wanted to get free college, right? Like my goal is to get to a 4-year university and go for free, right? And I was like, all right,
Yeah.
like I appreciate the honesty. I love it. So what are we going to do on this deployment to help you get there, right? And so we spent our downtime when we were not on watch. We sat in the mess decks and we did SAT prep questions. I made him go buy an SAT prep book and brought it on us with us on deployment. And we sat in the mess deck for an hour a day and did SAT prep questions, right? And guess where he's at right now? He's in college, right? He's going to college for free using his GI Bill at the University of Florida, right? Like, and I'm just like, to me, that's the greatest accomplishment. It makes me so happy, right? It makes me so happy. And like, to me, it's one of those, like, it's just one of those things that, like, again, my true desire, like what motivates me, what I love is being driven by this purpose of being a man for others. Like, how can I help you? Because I had people who helped me, right? I had people who helped me arrive to where I'm at. And like, it drives me. I love every bit of being able to be of service to someone in any way I can. Right. And so, that kind of stuff, like, I love it. Right. Because it just, to me, it makes it feel like I'm utilizing what other people had invested in me, and like I'm doing their honor proud, right? Like I'm just like continuing this pipeline of choosing to invest in people's lives and help them. So that one is special to me.
Yeah, I mean, the whole college drive and motivation is a big thing for I mean, for you, for when you went to, the Naval Academy, didn't even know what it was. Same for me, didn't even know what it was. Went in, got it. Man, that was really good. Sucked, but with today's like college loan forgiveness stuff, it's like, and I read in an article the other day, there's like 15 or 17 ships that are being decommissioned in the Navy because of lack of manpower, and I'm like, okay, that makes a little bit of sense tying those two together, but man, like. Those are just some of the thoughts that are going through my brain right now.
Sure.
So, but I'm sure he's doing really well now.
Yeah. I'm
with
sure
that motivation.
Really well.
It's all about motivation. Everything's about motivation.
Everything's about motivation. And again, I stand by this fact. Like, had no one taken care of him, the Navy was going to have a bad taste in his mouth, and he'd never have a desire. He was going to get out anyway, and would have got out in a bad way. I hope, right? Like, again, it's one of these things. I hope, again, maybe he comes back as a commissioned officer, or maybe he just comes back and supports the Navy in a way and speaks positively of it, so that way the next person goes and accomplishes it, right? Like, if we shame people for getting out of the military, or we're like, oh, we need you to stay in. No, we just need this organization to take care of people. Because if you're an organization that takes care of people and the management takes care of you, guess what? People are either going to stay or they're going to recommend it to other people. Straight up, right? And so there is a level of transparency that you need to provide, but it comes down to the officers and the chiefs, but it comes down to the wardroom to take care of their people. Straight up. Like, if we want to do anything about it, that's how you do it, is by loving, taking care of people and helping them win. Because straight up, right? Because that's how you're going to get people on the long term to want to be a part of the organization, right? Be a part of the organization. So
awesome. All right, we're in the home stretch here. A few more questions. Is what's your biggest failure? And when I say biggest failure, your biggest personally perceived failure. It may not have been a failure, but you thought, like, man, I really, messed this up. What was that for you?
Yeah, I still think to this day my biggest failure was how I acted as a midshipman, right? As early on, specifically to my family. Like my biggest failure was being cynical, being miserable, and not communicating to my family. Right. And so this is actually a really funny story. So my sister was also a recruited athlete. She was a big time basketball player, really good. She was recruited by the Naval Academy. She came to the academy on her official visit while I was a plebe. While she was there in Annapolis, I literally went. I went to
said,
where
don't
she was
come.
staying with. That's exactly what I did. I was like, whatever you do not come here. I said, whatever you do not come here. This is the worst place in the world. Don't you dare do it. Go somewhere else. Right. And so I think about it back. I'm like, sorry, my bad. Now my whole thing is about telling people they should go. Right. And so I felt
it's
bad from
that
that
mountain.
perspective.
It's climbing that mountain. And, you know, the hardest part of it is, you know, the initial start of the climb. Right.
Yeah. And so, you know, for me, it was tough because I feel like, again, as someone who prides myself on family and prides myself on all these different things, I felt like I put my family in a really bad spot, quite literally, tangibly to my sister's life. She ended up playing basketball at Yale. It's not like her life went off the rails. She's doing just fine. But it was one of these things where, you know, I felt like I was doing a really bad job with my family. And that was tough because my family means so much to me. Right. And so that was my continued greatest failure, and it's been the biggest motivator for me as well now is continuing this push of trying to get back and serve the community and make sure, again, people have all the resources to maximize the benefit of a positive familial relationship during the time at the academy.
Nice, good stuff. Wait until you start having kids. A whole different ball game, brother. Yeah, the whole family aspect, you know, with responsibilities.
I'm in no rush.
Yeah, well, you'll be there before you know it. And,
I know we're actually we have the conversations now. Yeah, it's on a legitimate timeline now, which is that's scary. No. It's real. Yeah, it's real.
Now we're getting real. On real, has there ever been a time with the Academy Insider where, you know, you're talking to folks and you felt like, man, I want to get real with this person, but I might not do that today because of the whole emotional charge, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of things with the price of admission that I try and do is try to dig into that with, you know, trying to keep it real, but at the same time not offend folks with certain stuff. You ever run into that?
All the time. I think one of the really important pieces about being in a position of influence is about knowing when and how to have really important, really serious, really difficult conversations, or being extremely real. Because if it's not the right environment and the person receiving is not ready to receive it, then you're just doing it for your own vanity and to make yourself feel good, right? And there's no point of that. And so, you know, there's a realness, and I see it in Academy Insider all the time, right? And in a public forum, sometimes it's not tough, but if I'm able to have potentially a one-on-one conversation with them, now it might be the right time to provide a little bit of reality, right? And a little bit of a tougher conversation that I would never post in a public forum. Or exactly. Right. And so again, your environment, your tone, the way you do it, and if the person is ready to receive it are all critical factors. But again, if you're in a position of influence, and any position of influence is, again, you don't have to have a platform. It could just be as a father to a son. At that point, you're in a position of influence, right? Or if you're a mentor to another person, you're in a position of influence. If you're in that spot, you need to have the emotional intelligence and situational awareness to know, is this the right environment? Is this the right time? Is the person ready to receive this? And if those things are not correct, how am I going to start taking small actions to get us to a point where all of those things are ready for us to have that conversation? Because if you don't do it, then you're just speaking to speak. And then what good is that doing? Right. And so there's a certain level of humility to know that, I feel like I know the answers, but if you just want to spread out the answers without having the person actually hear it and receive it at the right time, then you're doing yourself no good.
Yeah. I think one of my biggest failures overall in general in life is knowing your audience and knowing your audience with the right real time. Very important. I think you hit on it very well. So
I appreciate it.
Nice work. Okay. Couple more.
Yeah.
What's your biggest struggle that you're working through today?
My biggest struggle that I'm working through today is a balance of life plus work, right? It's a constant one. Like people talk about the work-life balance all the time. Um, it's one of these things that's really difficult because I'm driven by this purpose and passion of trying to give back and serve people and help people. And Academy Insider is really important to me. And I also have the
Yep.
full-time
Wait till
job
you
as a
get
real estate
married.
agent. Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. And so, but between real estate, between Academy Insider, between basketball refereeing, right?
Yeah.
And
You're
trying to
gonna
be
have to
very
drop something.
intentional,
Be ready.
right? And being very intentional and present with Dominique while she is home, right? Like all those things are difficult, right? All those things are difficult. And so for me, it is trying to be extremely efficient with my time, being extremely strategic in building out systems and processes that allow me to maximize my time and attention to the things that I love most while they're around, right? And so that has been the biggest struggle and entrepreneurial challenge for me, which is how am I going to build all of these things in a way that I can continue to do them, continue to devote and invest time to the things that I love doing, which is the people that I love and the game of basketball, right? How do I maximize my time teaching, coaching, and mentoring people and being present with the people that I love and refereeing basketball, right? And
Quick,
so how do I do all that, right? And so that's the biggest challenge.
quick question on that is: have you
Yep.
started using AI in any capacity?
Yeah, multiple things. So I do use artificial intelligence to build some drafts of stuff, right? Like which definitely helps. I think a lot of the charm of Academy Insider is that it is very personalized. So
Yeah,
anything you see that I post has been touched by me 100%, right? And been
yeah,
been adjusted.
yeah. I do the
Um
same thing. I make a draft and
y-
the personalized stuff. So,
yeah, so that
anything
helps. The
else?
Yeah, the biggest saving grace for me is I have two now virtual assistants on my team,
Ooh,
right? And so that's
nice.
been the greatest thing. I have an executive assistant who keeps me on track, who helps keep me organized, who keeps things going and scheduled, which is incredible. And I have a
Yeah.
video/audio editing virtual assistant, right? And so
Right. Tell me
I
more
don't
about
do
those
any of
two
my
things
own
so I can
editing.
learn.
Yeah, we should have a conversation about it offline, honestly, if you want. It's been the biggest saving grace to me. But having a team that helps me out with a lot of these things is the greatest time efficiency thing because I've built relationships with them now. They're on my team. They know how I operate. They know how I generally like things. I'm able to work with them and get things scheduled correctly, get outlines built,
Gotcha.
and then get
When you
content
said
actually
virtual
created.
assistant, I
Right.
thought it was an AI program. So that's where I was
Oh,
going with
sorry,
that.
no
It sounds
people.
like
Yeah, sorry,
normal.
like a
Yeah.
yeah,
People.
just not an in-person role, but yes, real human beings, real human beings.
Nice. Awesome. Good for you. All right. Last one. What's your
All
price of
right.
admission?
My price of admission, man, especially as it comes to the academy, is again, it's this idea of life is never going to get easier. The Naval Academy is never going to get easier. Life in the fleet's never going to get easier. Life after becoming a parent is never going to get easier. We have to get better at handling hard things. We have to get better at facing adversity and overcoming adversity, right? When we talk about the price of admission, when we talk about getting to the other end, when we talk about getting into that place and arriving where we want to be, you're going to have to overcome a ton of adversity and a ton of difficulty. And if we run away from it, we try to avoid it, we try to just wait it out, you're never going to
Be
get there,
complacent.
right?
Yeah.
And so for me, again, this is what I believe the power of being a midshipman is. Why you should go to the United States Naval Academy. Oh, I'm missing it here. Why you should go to a service academy is you are going to face adversity every single day. You're going to live a very difficult life, and you are going to get extremely good at handling the hard situations in life, right? And
Reward.
that is a skill that is incredible. You build real resilience, you build real toughness, you build real grit because you have to do hard things day in and day out, right? And so to me, that's the price of admission is like going through and choosing your hard and overcoming it, right? And getting through it and building and learning because of those moments. And so that's my price of admission.
Perfect. I think as you talk through those things, I was thinking back to one of my earlier episodes from a guy named Clint Bruce. For me, a big linebacker back in the day, his price of admission was the price is always paid, which is, I think, what you just described. So awesome, man. And yeah, great convo today. Appreciate your time. I know,
Appreciate you.
Dominique's probably waiting on you right now for something. So thank you.
Yeah,
And thank
she's called me
her.
twice since I've been on the episode. So yeah, it's time for brunch. Time for Saturday brunch, man.
Nice. Just wait until you have kids. It just explodes from there. So great luck to you guys. Great having you on. And yeah, be in touch. Take care.
I appreciate it, brother. Thank you so much.
All right, dude.